Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Skynet English. My name is Bruno, your official English teacher. You heard. I hope you guys are tuning into the channel. Today's video, we're going to talk about lots of different things. We're going to speak about cultural influences in English. We're going to speak about phrasal verbs, expression. Basically, we're going to talk about stuff. That concern English learners. All right. Now, most of the people that are tuning in, just 1 second, guys. I got like two things going on. I got the YouTube live going on. I also have lots of people sending me messages on the WhatsApp and on Facebook. So I'm gonna be kind of working in between um, speaking to you guys on YouTube. Sorry, I got to remember to keep looking at the camera, which I forget all the time. So I'm going to work between speaking with you guys on YouTube and the Facebook and the WhatsApp and all that other stuff. So basically, guys, today I want to speak to you about, we're going to start with something very basic for all of the students, I think. And it's something that I see happening a lot with English students, especially English students that they don't really have too much contact with native speakers, and it's something that everyone talks about, something that everyone does, which is the "I'm fine" when somebody asks you, "How are you doing?" Okay, or "How are you?" First of all, there are many different ways for you to say "How are you?" and "What's up?" and things like that. We have "How are you?" "What's up?" "What's going on?" "How you doing?" "What's good?" which I say all the time. I always use that with people. You know what I mean? Instead of saying "How are you?" which is very robotic. It's very course booky. It sounds like you're tense and you're not really comfortable with the language. So you're gonna say, instead of saying something else that sounds more natural, you end up saying, "How are you?" Yeah, that happens. People use that. People say, "How are you?" But usually it's not very robotic. That's the first thing I want to talk to you guys about. It's not like you're saying, "How are you?" You know what I mean? Like, for you to get a good pronunciation in English, you kind of have to let it flow. You have to put words together in the phrases. We don't really talk chopped up. You know what I mean? Like, "How are you?" We don't really say that. We say, "How are you?" Kind of sounds like two words instead of four. "How are you?" "How are you?" Three. Sorry. Horrible at math. But anyway, that's what it is. All right. So when somebody's saying "What's up?" to you, when somebody's saying "How are you?" Uh, there are many different ways that you can answer. You know what I mean? Like, you can say, uh, "I'm great, good, chilling, hanging in there. I'm all right, not too bad." In the other sense, you say, "Oh, I feel horrible today. I feel sick, or I'm tired, or not good at all." You know what I mean? Very rarely are you going to hear a native speaker say, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine." You usually don't say that. You know what I mean? We have a whole bunch of other stuff that we say. We usually don't say "I'm fine." So I think that's the first thing I want to talk about in this live stream is what native speakers use and what you learn in courses. They're not necessarily the same thing. Okay. Um, so that's the first thing. You have to try and get experience. You have to try and talk to people that are native speakers so you can kind of get used to what they really say and how we really say, what we really say, how we really talk. And I mean, it's not really robotic like the stuff that you see in textbooks. It just doesn't work like that. You know what I mean? Just 1 second. Sarah Maria. Sarah Maria just says, "What's up?" Hey, Sarah Maria, how are you doing? How you doing? Um, I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned. There's lots of people. Oops, just turned off. Uh, people sending me messages here on WhatsApp and on Facebook and stuff like that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Okay. Another thing that I want to talk about is something that I get confronted with. Some people say this to me all the time, and they're like, teacher, when I speak to you, or when I watch other YouTube videos, when I watch other native speakers on YouTube, you know what I mean, or any other of these video streaming programs, websites, they say, you know what, I can understand you very clearly. You know what I mean? I can understand uh, the other teachers clearly. I can understand them fine. You know what I mean? But when they are confronted with, when they are talking to a native speaker abroad, or when they're watching a movie, or they're watching series, or they're listening to music, you know what I mean? They always say to me, well, for some reason I can't understand what they're talking about, and it's kind of simple, guys, and this is the reason for that. All right, when you're speaking to a teacher, or when you're speaking to YouTubers, when you're speaking to YouTube teachers, uh, as teachers, we try to tone down our accent. We articulate more. We speak slower. You know what I mean? And it's really different from when you're speaking to a native person in his native surrounding. You know what I mean? Like, for me, for example, like every time I make a video, every time I talk to my students, I have to tone down my accent. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to understand that when a teacher is teaching and when a teacher is making a video, they're going to speak differently than when they're hanging out at the bar speaking to their friends. You know what I'm saying? So that's the one thing that you guys have to remember, is that, when you're speaking to a teacher, they're not going to speak, even if it's a native speaker. When we're teaching, we speak a little bit slower, we calm down a little bit, we articulate our words much more. So it's different, you know what I'm saying? Like, we try to hold it down, um, we try to express ourselves better and slower, so that the great majority of people can understand what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's those are the two things I wanted to start talking about on this live stream. Um, and now I'm going to take some questions from you guys. So let me see here. Diego just sent me a message. He wants to know about phrasal verbs, and when should we start studying phrasal verbs? Cool. That's a great question, Diego. All right, check it out. Me personally, as a teacher, I start teaching phrasal verbs straight off the bat, straight from the first day, because of two main reasons. Um, there are so many phrasal verbs. You know what I'm saying? And like, phrasal verbs, they kind of get invented all the time. So it's like there's so many of them that the sooner you start learning and practicing them. Just one second. All right. So the sooner you start learning and practicing them, the better it's going to be for you guys. All right. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Is everything okay? All right. Cool. Okay. So uh, phrasal verbs are very important, because if you want to reach a certain level of fluency, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you want to sound fluent, you have got to use phrasal verbs, man. There's no other way about it. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Phrasal verbs, idioms, expressions, those are things that native speakers we use all the time, especially phrasal verbs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know if I know how to talk without using phrasal verbs. So they're very important. That's why I suggest you start learning phrasal verbs from the get-go, from day one. Start trying to memorize them. You know what I'm saying? So the two things I want to somebody just asked me what are phrasal verbs? Okay. All right. Who is this? Muhammad Rali. I hope that I'm pronouncing that right. All right, Muhammad. Basically, phrasal verbs are like this. You're gonna take a verb and you're gonna take a um, usually it's a preposition. Okay, there are like phrasal verbs that use other things, but the great majority of phrasal verbs are verbs and prepositions. Okay, and what makes the phrasal verb different from a regular verb? Usually, phrasal verb, if you have the verb alone by itself, it means one thing, a traditional meaning of the verb. If you put them together and it transforms into a phrasal verb, many times doesn't really have anything to do with the traditional meaning of the phrasal verb. You know what I'm saying? Uh, for example, take, right? Everyone, you guys know what take is. Okay, I'm gonna take my cup off the table. So I'm taking my cup. Well, actually, this is a mug. I'm gonna take my mug off the table. So it kind of means like removing something. Okay, take off. All right. Now, take off is a phrasal verb, but take off can also mean when an airplane is starting to fly and it departs from the ground. That means the airport is taking off. Okay, I can say to you, oh, I'm going to take off my jacket. So that means I'm wearing a jacket and take off. I'm going to remove my jacket. So phrasal verbs can have more than one meaning, and that's one of the things that makes it the most difficult for people. All right. What's my second recommendation for phrasal verbs? Basically, guys, this is how it works. You have to get a phrasal verb according to your topic. Okay, just don't like start memorizing phrasal verbs out of nowhere. You know, if you put phrasal verbs on Google, they'll give you a list of phrasal verbs, and there's just so many of them that it doesn't really work. Just you start trying to memorize all this stuff out of nowhere. The best way to memorize, the best way to try and remember these things is to remember by subject, by topic, pardon me, by topic. So you can take a topic, right? And for example, traveling, flying, eating, drinking, okay? And you're going to take those phrasal verbs and you're going to try and memorize those phrasal verbs according to um, your situation, your topic, okay? There are a whole bunch of teachers that teach phrasal verbs on YouTube. So every day, if you go on YouTube and you try to study them, the more you study, the easier it's going to be to memorize. Okay. Another thing that I recommend, but just in general, when you're trying to memorize something, is before and after you sleep. So before you sleep, you do a quick read. You try to memorize some of the things. Go to bed. When you wake up, you take the same things you try to memorize before you went to sleep, and you reread them. You try to memorize them again in the morning. So that's very important, and I think that helps out a lot of people. You know what I mean? I think it's definitely going to give you an upper hand when you're trying to memorize stuff. Okay. All right. Let me check out another message. Okay. Let's see here. We have Aileen. Aileen. Why is the present perfect so difficult to learn? Great question, Aileen. Yeah, it's not really difficult to learn. I don't really think that there's too many things with the English language that is very difficult for someone to learn. One of the things is that people complain a lot is about the present perfect. Okay, And I'm not really going to give an entire class on the present perfect right now, just because, it's just so much stuff, and I'm probably gonna, make some videos later on. So subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell so you can be, you can be notified whenever there's a new video. And I already have some videos that talk about a little bit about grammar tenses. What's the deal with the present perfect? All right. The problem with the present perfect, guys, is that, um, well, many languages do not have a verb tense exactly like the present perfect. Okay, so I have lots of students. I'm originally from New York, but I'm living in Brazil. I currently live in Brazil. Okay, so I have lots. Obviously, I have lots of Brazilian students. Um, and they have a real difficult time with the present perfect because there really isn't a verb tense like the present perfect, exactly like the present perfect in Portuguese. So, before we start learning the present perfect, we learn simple present, past simple, stuff like that. Things like that usually have a version of it in your native language, but the present perfect does not. So I think that that's one of the most difficult things for most people is the concept, the theory of the present perfect, because you don't have this in your native language. So I'm actually asking you to think in a way that you have never thought before. So that's kind of difficult. That's challenging. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, so I think that that's the most difficult part of the present perfect. Don't worry, guys. After you get the gist of the present perfect, after you get the gist of the present perfect, everything becomes a lot more simpler. It may take you a little while, it may take you a couple of months for you to get used to this verb tense, but it's not impossible. You just have to be a little bit more open-minded about things. Okay. All right. Let's hit the other question up. Oh my God, so many things here. All right, let me just go randomly. Let's go with this one. This one's for Roberto Vieira. Roberto Vieira, first of all, I have an uncle with the exact same name as yours, so that's pretty cool. Okay. And Roberto is asking me, how can I improve my speaking? All right. I don't know if I have a video of this. If I don't, I'm definitely gonna make one. Um, but all right, check it out. How are you gonna improve your speaking? There's no other way about it. By speaking. Okay. Join WhatsApp groups. Join Facebook groups. Make pen pals. Today with the technology, it's very easy for us to to communicate with people, to talk to different people. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I personally have two WhatsApp groups that I try to maintain. I don't have any more just because I don't have that much time. But but you guys can definitely practice with people online, and the more you speak, the better you're going to become. Okay, there's no other way about it. I mean, like, the more you communicate, the more you talk to people, the better your speaking is going to be. All right. So, what can you do at home besides the obvious, talking to someone? Uh, People think that this is kind of crazy, but you can speak to yourself at home. Like, whenever you're doing something, just start talking to yourself. Okay. Instead of, like, when you're making food and you're thinking in your native language, try and think and talk about the steps in English when you're doing something. All right. So for example, you're making rice or something like that, and you're gonna, all right, I'm gonna put the water and whatever. Okay. You go through the steps and you talk out loud. You have to hear yourself speaking. That's the only way you're gonna improve your speaking skill. Okay. Another thing that's very important, whatever you're reading, make absolutely sure to read it out loud. Okay. Let me tell you a quick story uh, about a friend of mine that it kind of has to do with um, uh, making your speaking better. Okay. Because for you to pronounce and for you to speak better, you have to first hear the words and the pronunciation appropriately. Okay. And that's kind of difficult. Okay. I have a friend of mine that he came to Brazil, and I was, we were hanging out and we went out, and I noticed that, when he was trying to speak Portuguese, when he was trying to reproduce the things he heard in Portuguese, one of the things was that he wasn't really, his brain wasn't really um, recognizing certain sounds in Portuguese. So that happens a lot to English learners. Like you can't reproduce something, you can't pronounce something that you're not hearing. Okay, so what do you got to do? You got to take two steps in your listening, because if you improve your listening, automatically it's going to be easier for you to improve your your speaking skill. All right. So two things you have to do with your listening. There are two types of listening that I teach my students. Okay. The first type of listening is the focused listening. Like you're going to pay attention to what you're listening to. Don't get anything longer than 3 minutes. Okay. Any audio or anything you're listening longer than 3 minutes, our brain today does not, we have very short attention spans. So if you get something that is like a 30-minute listening or a 1 hour listening, you're not going to pay attention. So it's not going to work out. All right. So get a shorter listening exercise. It could be a video, it could be just the audio, doesn't really matter. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to listen 2, 3, 4 times to that audio. You're going to repeat as you're listening. You're going to write down all of the words that are new or that you have difficulty with. You know what I'm saying? So that's the focused listening. All right. And then you're going to do the second part of perfecting your listening skills is you're going to do what I call subconscious listening. Okay. This is a neuro-linguistic trick. So how's it going to work out? Basically, you're going to immerse yourself in the language, which is super important. One thing that people perfect, they're like, oh, just 1 second. Priscilla Caldeira has a difficulty with speaking alone too. Yeah, it's like I said, it's kind of strange. You know what I'm saying? Like it starts out kind of strange when you're speaking by yourself, because people usually don't do that. People will be like, "Oh no, you're crazy. I'm not going to talk to myself." People that have animals and children, it's much easier because we talk to ourselves all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like when we talk to our animals or something like that. So it's definitely important for you to do. All right. So going back to that listening, because again, you improve your listening, automatically your speaking is going to be better. Okay. So what are you going to do? You're going to, whatever you're doing in your day to day, if you travel abroad and you stay like 2 or 3 months in a city in a country that only speaks English. What's up, English Corner Brazil? Thank you so much for joining us. So if you're in a country that only speaks English, all right, what's going to happen? You're going to perfect your English because you don't have an option. Wherever you go, you're going to hear the English language. If you go to the supermarket, if you go to the bakery, you turn on the television, wherever you're at, you're going to hear people speaking in English. So what you have to do is you have to reproduce this in your country, okay? And one of the ways you're going to do this is whenever you're doing anything, you're going to work, you're driving to work, or you're on the bus or the subway or something like that, heading to your job, you're going to listen to English. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be music, it could be interview. It's usually better to like listen to interviews. I think the English in interviews is a much clearer, so it's probably going to help you guys out more. All right. So what you have to do is you have to listen to this stuff, but I don't really want you to pay attention. Oh, shit, I know, teacher, that sounds crazy. You want me to listen, but you don't want me to pay attention. Exactly. I don't want you to pay attention, okay? Because what's going to happen is your brain is going to absorb all of the sounds and all of the words that are going on around you without you making that much of an effort. Like, it's kind of going to be effortless, basically. You know what I'm saying? So whenever you're doing this type of subconscious listening, if you notice, if you start to pay attention, you're going to have, like, you know what I'm saying, like maybe an hour or 2 hours to you're gonna have, like, you know what I'm saying, like maybe an hour or 2 hours to subconscious listening. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of time at the end of the week. So it's definitely going to help you out. It's definitely going to be something that is going to improve your listening skill. Okay, and by, once again, I can't stress this enough, guys, by improving your listening skill, you're going to improve your speaking. Okay, there's no other way about it, because your brain is gonna it's going to be easier for your brain to recognize and to hear the sounds that you're trying to reproduce and you're trying to speak. Okay, another thing that's important, let's go back to the speaking thing, because everybody's asking me about how can I improve my speaking. Okay. I know this is difficult for a lot of people, but you cannot be afraid to make mistakes. That's the only way we're going to learn. And if you are afraid to make mistakes, you're going to be afraid to try, you're going to be afraid to experiment, and that's going to mess up your learning curve, basically. Okay? So try not to be afraid. Don't worry about it. Like, most of the people are going to correct you or something like that, because they're trying to help out. Like, I mean, there are jerks in every country. There are jerks in every society. So you're gonna find someone that's kind of like stuck up and think that they're better than you. But you know what? Forget about that person. What's important is that you are learning. You are trying to better yourself. You're trying to learn something, and it doesn't really matter what the other people think. Okay, so I think that's one of the things that's going to help you guys out a lot. All right. Okay. Let's go to the messages again. All right. We're almost hitting half an hour of the live stream. This live stream is only going to be around 40 minutes, just because I have to teach class in a little while. But let's go to the questions again. Oh, all right. Priscilla sent me another one in the WhatsApp group. She's watching. Thank you, Priscilla, so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody. Thank all of you guys that are watching the live stream. I'm going to give an opportunity for you guys to send me questions. So if you have any doubt or anything like that, please send it over to me, and I will try to answer you guys, all of you guys. I'm trying to, balance the live stream here and the messages I'm receiving on my cell phone and stuff like that. All right. So okay, here we go. The next one is, how can I reduce my accent? This one is from Jessica. All right, Jessica, how can you reduce your accent? All right, here we go. Webison, what's up, Webison? Thank you so much. You're a great teacher too, man. Thanks for joining us today. All right, so check this out. How can you reduce your accent? Well, first thing I want to tell you guys is that there's a very big difference between accent and you having an accent and you pronouncing something incorrectly. Okay. Later on the channel, I'm gonna post pronunciation videos. But the first thing that I want you guys to pay attention is this: you pronouncing something incorrect and you having an accent is completely two different things. Okay. Pronunciation has to be practiced. It has to be something that you guys have to constantly be aware of. You have to constantly think about the pronunciation. But your accent doesn't really matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, I personally, I don't like to say accent reduction. I prefer to say accent acquiring or accent addition. Okay. So, for example, if you speak to someone from New York and you speak to someone from Texas, they have two completely different accents. Okay. Which one is better? Whichever one is easier for you to reproduce. Like, there's no, oh, this accent is more, it's more correct than the other accent. No, an accent is an accent. You know what I'm saying? Um, like, each person has their own accent. Each country has their own accent. When you speak to someone, you can usually figure out where the person is from by their accent. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, don't worry about accents. Like, the accent is not going to impede people from understanding what you're talking about. Like I said, pronouncing something incorrectly and your accent is two different things. All right. So first, concentrate on pronunciation. Don't worry about your accent. Your accent just naturally, it's going to go away with time. Some people are always going to have accents. You know what I mean? Like, New Yorkers, we have our own accent and we don't try to change it. So I don't suggest you should try and change it either. You know what I'm saying? I think you should concentrate on pronunciation and not really worry about accents. Accent is just something that you acquire with time. So it's not really a big deal. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's go to the next question. Guys, we're 32 minutes into the live stream, so send me your questions, send me your comments. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you guys shout outs if you send me a what's up here on YouTube Live. So let's go to the next one. Next question is randomly here. Let me just, so many questions. All right, here we go. What This happens all the time. Um, which English is better? Britannical English or American English? Okay, here we go. Now, I'm kind of suspect because I'm American. I'm from New York, so obviously, I think American English is better, let's say. But first of all, we have to acknowledge that British English is the origin of the language comes from that area. Okay, so English Corner Brazil says, I believe there is no best English. Yeah, I mean, like, whichever one is easier for you is the one you're going to use. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's very important that we, as a teacher, I think there is something that's called, and I get confronted with this a lot, all right? There's something that's called standard English or global English, all right? And why do I think that that's the English you have to learn? Standard English or global English, it's not really American, it's not really British, okay? It's the English that most people around the world are going to understand what you're talking about, okay, or what you're saying. So that's the global English. So pronunciation is kind of standard. It's kind of a pronunciation, the vocabulary, the expressions, all of that stuff is something that is going to be understood by a wider range of people. Okay, so Personally, I think American English is much easier to teach because we articulate more. You know, we make faces, we move our mouths a lot, so it's kind of easier to produce the American English. It's the English that is predominant in business. Okay, depending on where you live in the world, maybe not, but I would say that like 85% of business English is American English. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I think that there is no better English between American or British English. Which, by the way, those aren't the only variations. You know, we have Australian English, so there are different types of English out there. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that the best one is the one you're comfortable with. Okay, so that answers that question. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, here we go. All right. How can I expand my vocabulary? Very good question. This question is coming from Rajael. Rajael. Yeah, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but he has some of the flag of Morocco. So Rajael from Morocco. All right, let me answer that. How are you going to improve your vocabulary? Okay, two ways. Two ways to improve your vocabulary and to improve your structure of the language, which I think is very important. All right, so here we go. The first way is reading. Read. You have to read, guys. Okay. The more you read, the better your vocabulary is going to be because you're learning more words. Okay. So there's no other way about it. You guys have to read. I don't really care how you read. It doesn't really matter. You can read on your cell phone, on a tablet. You can read books. You can read newspapers. You can read subtitles in movies. Doesn't really matter what you read. What's important is what or how you read. What's important is that you read. The more you guys read, the better your vocabulary is going to become. The more you're going to be able to memorize structure. So I can't stress this enough, guys. Reading is so important. All right. I know some people really don't like reading, but that's what you got to do. For those people that, okay, no, I can't stand reading, teacher, I hate reading. First of all, I have to tell you guys, try to change that habit, yo. Like, I mean, reading is so much fun. So try to change that habit. But if you can't, here's a little way you can use to cheat. Okay. And again, this is going to work on vocabulary. It's going to work on structure. It's going to work on your speaking skill. It's going to work on your listening skills. So over here, you're not killing two birds with one stone. You're killing like four of them. All right. And here, this is how it goes. Audiobooks. Okay. Get something, get a book that you enjoy. Find the genre. Find the something that you really like horror, science, adventure, doesn't matter, right? And what you're going to do is you're going to Google the audio book. You're going to find a book that you really like. So let's say um, I just taught a class today about, I used this book, The Da Vinci Code from Dan Brown. So let's say you're going to use the Da Vinci Code, okay? And you're like, oh, I hate reading. I don't want to read, okay? So you're going to get the audio book of the Da Vinci Code and you're going to listen to it while you're going to work. You're going to listen to it while you're at the gym. You're going to listen to it while you're shopping at the supermarket. You're just going to listen to the audiobooks. And the more you listen, the more vocabulary is going to sink in. The more you're going to practice your listening, you're going to practice. It's going to be easier for you to register specific sounds in English that you couldn't hear before. You know what I mean? So the more you guys practice your listening and the more you read, the better your vocabulary is going to be. There's no other way about it. All right. Now, how do you memorize new vocabulary? There are tons of neuro-linguistic tricks you guys can use out there to try and memorize new words. Okay, you can Google it. I'm not going to waste too much time of this video trying to explain it to you guys, but you can definitely Google it, and you'll find a whole bunch of different methods, methodologies, and things you could do to memorize new vocabulary. All right, I'm gonna make some videos about it later on and post to the channel. So once again, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the notification button. And yeah, I will post some more things later on down the line. All right, guys. So it's that's 40 minutes of the live stream. I would like to thank all of you guys so much for showing up. All of you people, all of you that participated. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I'm gonna try and do more live streams periodically. You know what I'm saying? But in the channel, there's lots of videos that you can check out. There's in the about part of the channel, there's my email, so you can send me emails. You can also comment on the videos. I usually, answer the comments right away. And that's pretty much it, guys. You know what I'm saying? It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys. I have to go because I have an appointment with some students. I have to teach class in about 5 minutes. So thank you so much once again for joining us here at Skynet English course. Once again, my name is Bruno. Cantor Estrela, good tips. Thank you so much, Cantor. Thank you for your comment. Thank you for joining us. You guys rock. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. The students you guys are the best. All right. And Webison, thank you so much, Webison. Yeah, man, let's get back to classes soon. It's great to talk to you again. Also, I hope you and the family are doing well. And yeah, just stay tuned, and I'll try to make some more live streams as soon as I can. All right, guys. So I gotta head out. I gotta say peace to all of you guys. Have a great night. I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. I hope you guys can join us on the future streams. And that's it. Thank you guys so much. Have a good night, and I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. Peace.